Hello, everyone. The clip you're about to hear is from one of our exclusive Patreon episodes on a recent horror release, and just like all of our other episodes, it might include major spoilers for said horror release, so don't listen to it if you haven't already seen it. You've officially been warned. And if you'd like to hear the full episode, just head on over to patreon.com/horrorqueers and subscribe today. Without further ado, here is your exclusive Patreon clip. I liked the True Knot in this film because I thought that he took something that is kind of cartoonish and silly in the book and made them something menacing. But I understand what you're saying and I'm going ahead, but like, I like the recruitment of Snakebite, but then it's kind of like, why do we get all this time devoted to her when she is not in it that much after her recruitment, and then she gets killed pretty quickly? I really just think maybe they felt it was necessary to show this process, to show what they do, to because I
100%.
I view the True Knot less as all these different people, but as a one family unit. So like, to me, minus Rose the Hat, who is her own entity, the rest of the True Knot is like one villain. It's not a bunch of people, it's one villain connected by this vampiric need to eat or absorb steam. So I never really needed to know all of them individually.
I just think in a film like this, you could have kept that family dynamic and had Rose the Hat, the Crow, Snakebite Andy, and then whatever the giant from Twin Peaks' name was.
Who is also the Moonlight Man in Gerald's Game.
Yes, exactly. Because Flanagan likes to keep his people close.
Yep.
I understood that he was trying to show something, and I appreciated that he showed us what the initiation into this life looks like, but also what the exit looks like, right? Mm-hmm. You need to have an understanding of how these creatures work beyond the fact that they suck energy out of special people. And that's fine, but I felt like it just all adds up to nothing, in part because you've got all these peripheral characters. And yes, it makes for a striking image when you open your film by having a little girl get lured down to a lake.
Ooh,
and you just got her surrounded by a group of people. Like, that's great, right? It works.
It's filmed very well too, as they slowly, like, because like the girl keeps looking and like there's more of them populating the forest, and
and then they keep getting closer.
Well, and then he has, is it this one or is it Jacob Tremblay death scene, or is it both of them, where there's the overhead shot of all of them rushing, just like an Interview with the Vampire, where they're rushing to eat that girl? Like I love the swarming shot. It's so cool.
Yeah, swarming is very uncomfortable. It makes for some good nightmarish imagery. But my big issue is, this film, it's going in a lot of different places. There's a lot of time spent on a lot of things that don't necessarily add up to much. That's one of my main arguments for saying this film is not great. The whole sequence that takes place where they go to try to get Abra, and we do the bait and switch, we go to the forest, we have the shootout, which, P.S., I hate guns in movies with special people, because why the fuck do we need guns if we all have special powers? Anyway, that's another complaint. The whole thing is, it's not going to add up to anything. The only part that actually works is the fact that the Crow ends up with Abra. And I like the idea. Abra.
Abracadabra.
I knew I was going to mix it.
It's abracadabra.
The number of critics who thought that they were super smart writing that in their reviews, by the way, no, people. That does not make you clever.
God, you're such like smart. You're so smarmy. You're being so smarmy right now. It's so frustrating. I think it does add to something, but it's more of a thematic thing. Like, I think the themes of this movie actually are what makes it work, and then emotional connection. Because we're getting ahead of ourselves by jumping to this gunfight scene, because the first act, or I guess maybe the first quarter of this movie, has so much to juggle, because you've got to do the prologue coming off of The Shining. You've got to also resurrect Dick Halloran, who, again, is not dead in the book and is dead in the movie, so he finds a workaround.
Which I think is fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Did you like all, like, the memory box stuff?
Yeah, it was a little Hannibal-esque for me, but still fine.
Okay. And then, of course, getting introduced to adult Danny, getting introduced to the True Knot, getting introduced to Abra, and it's doing all this stuff in the first act, and I get that the length of the film bothered you. This flew by for me. I never thought it dragged once, and I want to see it again because I want to see how it flows. But I thought every minute of this movie was necessary because I was so into this world that was being built. And I also love the expansion of not only the world, but the mythology behind what we've already seen and or read in The Shining.
I can't dispute the idea that there's a nice expansion of the world and the idea that the Overlook is just one of many kind of supernatural things that prey on other people.
Yeah, like a hub.
That. I will disagree with you that all of this first act is essential. Because watching this film, I can see what Flanagan's trying to do, but I think he's going about it the wrong way. So think about the part where we get introduced to adult Danny. He's a mess. He's an alcoholic. He's destitute. He's living on the streets. He picks up this woman, or she picks him up. They have this cocaine bender, and then he thinks about taking her money and then doesn't. Sure, whatever.
Wait, doesn't he take her money? I thought he ended up taking... Oh, no, because Dick stops him.
Yeah. And then we have to see him get on the bus, go to this new town, meet this guy, go to AA, meet this doctor, get a job. Like, it's a lot, but it's not complicated. We understand he's fucked up from his experiences as a child. He's a drunk and he's not dealing with it well. You could have cut that down to a couple of scenes. This is like 35 minutes.
I disagree completely. I think devoting so much screen time to this, it's necessary to show. I mean, yes, can we get all this from a couple minutes? Yes, but Flanagan says, no, I want you to see all of this. I want you to see his routine, see how, not blasé is not the right word, but see, it's a really good look at how trauma has affected him since a child all the way through his adulthood, how he uses alcoholism as a repressive means of like getting the Shining out of him, or like repressing the Shining. And also the memories, blah, 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 ha, ha, wink, wink.
But that's the thing, is you literally just undermined your own argument, blah, 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 ha, ha, ha. We've seen this a million times before. Guess what? But people with trauma drink as a coping mechanism. Like, we've seen it 100 times. So why not give us some shorthand so that we can get into the story?
Okay, but no, that's such bullshit. Okay, so we've seen it 100 times, so the 100th person to do it should shorthand it at the expense of the character?
I don't think this does anything for the character trace.
We
know who this character is.
You know who he is as a child. You don't know who he is as an adult.
Get in, losers. This is the Lady Killers, a Feminine Rage podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Sammy.
I'm Rocco.
And I'm May. Our podcast is a tribute to the female-identifying killers in horror and more.
Each episode will feature us, your Supreme Court of female murderers, discussing our favorite lady killers, from your Julias and Jennifers to your Carries and Christines.
We'll tell her story, decide if it's good for her horror, and answer the most important question of all: would we die for her?
Join us on Thursdays as we pull on our sweaters, snatch our ice picks, sharpen our scissors, and honor the lady killers who live on the silver screen.
No boys were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Yet.
Hello, I'm Shelby Scott, the host of Scare You to Sleep, a podcast where I tell you spooky bedtime stories full of creepy sound effects and music that is soothing yet unsettling to help immerse you into a world of horror. This is a show for those of us who have realized horror can be a strange but relaxing escape from reality. Speaking of escapes, sometimes I lead you through guided nightmares, like a guided meditation, but instead of flowery meadows, I take you on a journey through your own personal nightmare. So come get lost in the terror with me. Listen to Scare You to Sleep wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us online at bloody.fm. Sweet screams.